Hello to the curious and the thoughtful. It's Ellie again. Nice to see you joining me today. Okay, people ask me this question all the time, and they have done ever since I started here on YouTube, gosh, more than 5.5 years ago. I'm often being asked why I continuously say that I'm not psychic, while at the same time, I often have dreams that seem to line up really well with real world events. Well, today I'm going to be talking about what's really happening there. And I'm going to link today's show to a dream that I had last night that felt a lot like prophecy. So I got a comment recently from Kathy McLaughlin 7730, who is a long-standing viewer. Hey, Kathy. And Kathy asked, why do you have dreams that seem prophetic? Are you connecting to the Akashic records, or is something else going on? I'm going to answer Kathy's question with that story of my dream, which was the dream that I had last night. So let me tell you this dream. All right. It doesn't seem to make any sense until you break it down. The way that the dream went was that I was driving in my car, and for some reason that I don't know, I decided to drive up the driveway of a house that I'd never been to. I didn't know the people who lived in this house. It was a big 2-story house, and I drove up and parked my car right outside the front door. I got out of the car and I was approaching the front door and I was going to start knocking. And just before I got to knock, a little boy, he must have been probably 8 or something, he came out from the shadows and went and knocked on the door himself. I smiled to him, but he was non-responsive. He kind of looked unhappy or grumpy or something, and he had a very long face. And he went to the door and he knocked on the door. And then an older boy, probably a young man really, whom I think was his brother, answered the door. Now, I remember the appearance of this young man really well, more than the little boy. He had very angular, sharp features with prominent cheekbones, and he had a light complexion, almost a little bit like Ron Howard when he was young, you know, the fellow, the director who was Fonzie's friend on that show, that comedy show from, I don't know, the 70s or 80s or whenever it was. Well, Richie, that's it, he played Richie. Well, he looked a little bit like Richie Cunningham. And he answered the door, and he was very serious when he did. And I immediately and kind of instinctively made a jokey kind of hello. I was the first person to speak, and I said something along the lines of, oh, look, I brought a gift, in which I was actually referring to the little boy because the boy had knocked on the door rather than me. So I kind of said, oh, I brought a gift, or I came with accessories or something like that, to kind of demonstrate that I brought the little boy with me as a joke, even though I could kind of tell that he already lived there. I didn't get a response from the young man who answered the door. Instead, he was so serious that he caught my attention, and then I noticed that he had bruises all over his face. And so I became immediately concerned for his welfare, and I said to him, are you okay? Anyway, he didn't respond. So then I said, do you need some help? And in response to that, he looked at me and he said quite seriously, he said, it's complicated. And then at that point, he and the little boy went inside and they closed the door and they left me outside on the patio. And I remember thinking to myself, there's something going on here. And I remember even thinking in my dream that I had a feeling that there might be some kind of domestic abuse taking place in that house that they're both victim to. So I started walking down the driveway thinking I better go and get some kind of help for these people. And then when I got onto the street, I realized that I had left my car behind. So I went looking for my car, but somehow in the dream, I'd lost track of where the house was. And I was walking up and down the street and I couldn't find the house again. And so I didn't find my car. And then I woke up. Now that dream is probably, once you hear me break it down, you'll understand why people often say that I'm psychic, even though I don't believe that I am. Let me break it down. Okay. So the house represents something unfamiliar because I didn't know the house. I'd never been there before, and I didn't know the people. So in terms of my dream, I think it means that it's an unfamiliar space and that I'm entering a new kind of psychic territory. And when I say psychic, I mean from the psyche. Part of myself or part of reality that I haven't explored before. It was a fleeting glimpse of something that's normally hidden away and is about to emerge, and I'm getting to see a tiny bit of it before it does. It was kind of represented by the fact that I couldn't find my car again. So I saw something and then I lost something. So that means it's kind of hidden and I got a little glimpse of it. So that's one aspect of it. Then there's the two boys. So the young boy, he was quiet and grumpy and kind of didn't acknowledge me. He represented childlike needs and also some kind of vulnerability. Also maybe neglect and repression of something or someone. Okay, the older boy was serious and he was wounded. He had bruises on his face, but he was also articulate in the way that he responded to me when he said it's complicated, because those were the exact words that he used. And what he represents is an awareness that comes from enduring some kind of hardship or carrying the scars of old wounds or knowing the complexity of what it takes to truly heal. So together, the two boys kind of could have represented two aspects of a truth that's emerging. One of them is silent and withdrawn, and the other one is bruised but very aware. And then we have the car in my dream, and the car represents this sense of urgency or a sense of importance or a direction of travel, because generally that's what the car does. And the fact that I parked it in a driveway, well, that's a temporary space that could represent the kind of an entering into a psychic territory, which is also temporary in nature. Losing the car could be a warning for me not to lose my way as I'm traveling in this new psychic territory. So we also have the conversation that took place at the doorway. Well, I was offering a gift, which was a gesture of goodwill to the young man, as much as it was kind of like a flippant kind of hello, where I said I came bearing a gift. The fact that I actually stated that I came with something was me offering with a gesture some kind of goodwill, but it wasn't being openly received. Instead, there was this kind of barrier that was set up. And what this represents is the challenge of me honestly offering part of myself to other people who aren't really ready to accept that gift yet. And they aren't able, or they're not able to, whether they can't recognize or they just aren't willing to accept the support that I'm willing to give them. The "it's complicated" reply is really telling. That exposes a lot about what's happening behind this refusal to accept the support. It's kind of an acknowledgement that the truth is there, that I'm offering some kind of true heartfelt support, and it's an acknowledgement that it's needed. But what the dream is doing is it's confirming that the message that I offer as a gift is known to be the truth. But those who are wounded, they're just not ready to heal yet. They need to continue to immerse themselves in pain for a bit longer before they become ready to resolve whatever it is that hurts within them. So can you see how this dream has kind of told us a lot? So let me sort of simplify this, because I'm going to show you why it relates directly to this question of whether I am psychic, which I am not, even though people keep telling me that I am. Okay, so this is the simplification of this dream. The house represents the psyche. It often does in dreams. The boys are representations of the collective, of humanity. Okay, perhaps it even relates to this YouTube community. I'm offering assistance in the dream, as I do every time I air a video. But for many people, the door is closed because they're not ready to accept it. And so I leave, but in the moment that I leave, that ability to help has been lost. But nothing is permanent, because my role, according to this dream, or the way that the dream has tried to guide me as a person, is to tell me that my role is to witness and to acknowledge things and to prepare myself so that when the time is right and the collective wants to accept assistance that I'm willing to offer, that I will be here to be able to continue to help. I'm being shown the limits of my ability to intervene in this stream. I can't force people to heal. I can't force healing upon them, but my voice matters and I should trust it. So I need to make sure that I retain my solid footing of who I am, because if I get carried away and head down that driveway and leave my car behind, then I'm losing an aspect of myself. And so it was a dream that was giving me grounding advice and telling me what my parameters are of where I should be in this collective, so that I can be as much as I need to be, but without losing myself in the process. So now I've given you the evidence behind what I know that helps me to understand who I am and who I'm not. And I'm not just claiming that I know stuff, right? I'm proving today how I know the stuff. And this is the stuff that I know. Okay. I'm not psychic. I'm not prophetic. I don't claim to have psychic powers. What I do claim is the ability that we all have. When you stop tuning into other people's baggage or opinions or noise, you start hearing your own truth. That's what I'm doing. I'm hearing the truth because I never stick to somebody else's stuff. Okay. The dreams that I have are mirrors of reality. So the dreams are not predictions, they're reflections of what already exists. They show us what's already rising in the unconscious. So sometimes that truth aligns with events that are taking place in the world. And when that happens, people call it prophecy or prediction. But really what it is it's gnosis. And it's gnosis that's becoming visible. And gnosis is not a superpower. What it is it's a universal truth. It's the word that links the Gnostic belief system to this kind of intuition. It's a sense of knowing what's real, and it's intuitive, and it's based on the sensitivity of the spirit. So the way that I can explain it is that I don't adopt other people's perspectives. Instead, I let my own gnosis rise to the surface. That's not expertise and it's not psychic ability. What it is it's an openness to receive what is naturally around me. And it's a kind of a confidence that I have. The truth is there, that the truth already exists. It's already inside me. And it's also inside you. I'm not the only person. This is something that everybody has access to. The only reason why it becomes evident in me is because I am open to it and I accept it for what it is. That's all. The reason why it looks psychic. Okay, so from the outside, that openness might look like a super intelligence or it might look like a psychic ability. But it's neither of those things. All it is really is it's a keenness to listen and to learn. And it's also a kind of a refusal to be an expert. Have you noticed I never say that I'm an expert in anything except tarot? I'm really good at tarot. I think after 40 years I've earned that right to say that I'm an expert at tarot. Plus, my book kind of makes sense. So I guess, yes, I'm an expert at tarot. But mostly I'm not an expert in anything else. But what I am is I'm very willing to listen to what's already there in our reality, what already exists. Every time I hear a person claim to be psychic, for example, I often think to myself, oh, they've chosen a label for themselves instead of simply listening to the truth that existed long before they came onto the scene. The truth is universal. The person hearing the truth is a temporary feature, very much like driving your car into somebody else's driveway. We're all just visiting, but the truth is always going to be there. And everyone has access to that. That's what the gnosis is that sits inside them. In order to reach it, though, we need to remain open to what we don't assume we know. As soon as we claim to know, we've kind of lost our ability to reach that truth. It's a really delicate balance that's often defeated by our ego. The openness to receive is the power. The ego that often we possess is the obstacle of being able to receive that gnosis. So I hope this wasn't overly complicated. When my dreams line up with real events, what I'm experiencing is a resonance. It's my unconscious that's listening to the collective and then translating it into images of gnosis. So, Kathy, I'm not accessing the Akashic records. What I'm doing is I'm accessing the collective consciousness, which everyone has the power to access because we're all immersed within it. It's right there. You can call it God if you want. You can call it gods if you can. If you want, you can call it your higher self. You can call it any label that you want. It's the conscious energy that we're all immersed in, which means we all have access to it. But the only way to really reach it is to just trust that it's there and set aside the assumptions that are based on ego in order to be open enough to receive it. So the simplest thing to say after all of that is, no, I'm not psychic. What I am, however, is I'm listening. And we all have the ability to do exactly the same thing. All we have to do is to stop listening to the noise out there that acts as a distraction and a bypass and start listening to the quiet truth that's already inside us. And that sometimes, like for example, in our dreams, comes banging on the door. If this episode resonated and you'd like to know more, there are plenty just like it sitting in this playlist. Welcome to the new world. This is Ellie Dreams and Under. I love knowing you're here, and I'll see you in my dreams. Thanks for the question. Bye.